Everybody, Johnny here from Real Broker. It's great to see a few people on already. We're going to wait just a couple minutes. Drop in the chat where you guys are tuning in from. That's always helpful. Also, just like to know, if you want to drop in the chat how long you guys have been thinking about your first home or why you guys dropped in. All that stuff is always great to know. um, I'm going to drop in the chat right now a booking link, um, so you can always book a consult with me anytime during the webinar. I'll drop this in a few times. You can see if what I'm delivering to you is worth discussing more. That's always something fun. So let's see who is here. Christy, Melody, Manisha, thanks for coming. I haven't seen okay, Christy, Golden Valley, just wanting to buy a home. Okay, that's great. Can certainly help you, I hope, and answer some questions and hopefully add some value and take some stress off of you. Um, that's kind of the way that um, these things go. Um, want to see if we can answer questions for you. Just basically, I get excited helping first time homebuyers. I'm actually waiting right now on an answer from an agent about an offer I put in today. So I'm kind of excited. That'll probably happen while we're talking, and that's okay, cool. Um, so, uh, Christy, how long have you been looking to think about buying a home? And Melody, where are you coming in from? Okay, good. All right. Lots of people in here now. That's great. Um, just this last month. Well, that's exciting. I get excited for people. Um, that's cool. Thanks for booking, Manisha. Um, I'm about ready to get going. I like to wait a little bit for people to get in. I hope everybody had a good day. Give a thumbs up if you did. That's always nice to see people in good moods. And make sure all this chat stuff is working. I have to make sure all this tech is working. I've had a couple of times here lately where the tech let me down. Um, and that's disheartening to say the least. Um, all right, well, let's get started. My name is Johnny McFadden. I work with a team called the Grant Johnson Group, and the brokerage is Real Broker. Um, I serve the Twin Cities and the greater metropolitan area, and I I am I've been doing this for a few years. I Our team has 120, 130 agents now. So uh, anything that can come up, basically, or questions that I can't answer, my team certainly can help. Um, we are going to go over some costly mistakes that hopefully after this class you'll say, no, I don't want to. I don't want to make those mistakes. Um, so as a new buyer, do you guys feel right now, have you felt stressed or more concerned, uncertain or anxious? Hopefully today will help clear some of that stuff up, and we can get you to where you feel better, you feel more knowledgeable, you feel more in charge, you feel like some of the questions that you had were being answered. Um, so again, my name is Johnny. I'm with the Grant Johnson Group, and got a few client testimonials. I don't like to talk a whole lot about myself, but it is important that you guys trust somebody that knows a little bit about what they're talking about, I hope. Um, so I've been working around in the greater Twin Cities area, all the way up to St. Cloud, Zimmerman, down to Red Wing, Lake City. So I kind of get all the way around the 7 county and larger area. Um, People generally have liked working with me, I can say. So I'm ready to help anybody, especially first time home buyers get into a home. So let's jump in. What are the steps to home ownership? I guess that's a fair question. I always say that the smart people know that they don't know enough. So everybody here is a smart person, and I hope that we can educate you and make you even smarter. So, coming to this class is first step is to learn all the things that you didn't know to even ask. So, um, let's start into the presentation here. Mistake number one would be basically not checking things out, not checking with a realtor, not checking um, into seeing what programs you might qualify for. So if you've ever been thinking, okay, I wonder if I qualify for a mortgage, we're going to go through a few different programs tonight that are going to help. Um, Illuminate those things for you. So if you want to save money, I always want to save money. It's best to check out and see which programs you might qualify for. Have you guys heard? Drop in the chat. Have you heard about any first time buyer programs? Let me know where you guys are at. And that way I can sort of tailor this more if you've heard more of that or not. We'll go over things deeper. Hi, thanks, Christy. Um, so there is at least 60 programs in the different states and counties and cities that are available to help people get into their first home. And again, I like to do as much saving as I can. And I like to let other people know, okay, here's what we can do to help you with down payment assistance, or here's a grant that we can talk about. Um, so, the short answer, mistake number two. So, number one is not checking to see what you qualify for. We're going to go over more of that, as I said. Um, Mistake number two is not getting a pre-approval. So let's talk about um, that for a second. So who knows the difference between pre-qualified and being pre-approved? So you can drop a line in the chat there if you guys know the difference between those two and how they impact what you're going to do moving forward. Okay. So you guys know a little bit about that. Okay, that's great. So the short answer to my own question is that it's much better to be pre-approved than pre-qualified. So what do those two things mean? So pre-qualified is kind of just scratching the surface. Almost anybody can get pre-qualified. It doesn't hold a lot of weight with things like a seller or a listing agent. They're going to want to know that someone's pre-approved. So pre-qualified is just kind of a generic term that doesn't carry a lot of weight. If you were to come up in an offer situation with if there was a couple offers on the table and you were pre-qualified and the other party was pre-approved and all the terms were kind of the same, they're gonna probably take the person that's pre-approved. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. So pre-qualified stuff is basically on sort of self-reported information to a loan officer. Um, it's often there's no credit pull, so they're just kind of going off of what you think your credit score would be. There's not any document verification. Again, these kind of loosey goosey. Um, so you can kind of think about it as based on what you told me, you probably qualify for X. And again, it's sort of you're sort of not known. It's not a known quantity. It's sort of good for early planning or maybe a casual conversation, maybe budget estimating, um, that kind of thing. So, but let's talk about pre-approved, what that really means. And so that really means that you're doing the work. You're serious about the whole situation with getting into a new home. This is step that people sort of get apprehensive about. And I want to see if I can take some of that away just with some knowledge. How does that sound? Um, so pre-approval, what that means is that we're going to actually do some homework behind the scenes so that when we write an offer, the seller goes, "Oh wow, this looks like a really well qualified person." So what does it mean to be pre-approved? So that means that we would do a pull on your credit. So what does that mean? That just basically means that we're going to find out what your credit score is. It won't be what's called a hard pull, where that can actually influence your credit score negatively. So we'll do that once we get an approved offer for the lender at that time. But initially, to get you pre approved, it'll be a soft pull on your credit. Does that make sense? Yes. Um, so we're going to want to identify and verify your income. So we'll pull your credit, we'll get a score that'll give us an idea of maybe the things that you would qualify for, or do we need to help you? That kind of thing. So pre-approval process also involves getting some more documentation from you. For instance, maybe we need a couple of months worth of pay stubs, or we need some tax returns or some W-2s. So there'll be different things that'll be asked of you during this period to help us find out, yes, let's be serious with this process of getting you guys into a new home and getting pre-approved. Sometimes we even get fully underwritten, which is a really strong thing having to do with being pre-approved. When you deal with a real loan officer, like I'm going to talk about, is Sean, who I work with. Let me drop in the link again here, my my information. So we will verify these things, and the reason we want to do that is so that whenever you guys want to write an offer, we're ready to go. If we don't do it up front, and you guys find a house on the weekend or something and you haven't done your homework and pulled all your paperwork together and done all this stuff first, then we could be high and dry. Um, and we don't want to do that. We want to do front loading this stuff first. So once we once we know that you guys are pre-approved, we'll also know how much you're pre-approved for, rather than just the gray area of, oh, I think that I could buy a house that costs X. We're gonna know what your monthly payment's gonna be. We're gonna know, all of that stuff so that you're really informed. And you can think of it also as we're ready to make offers on houses when you're pre-approved. We can also win in multiple offer situations um, more readily. And we can show sellers that you're serious and that we can negotiate on stronger terms. So let's go through the loan pre-approval. I spoke a little about this on the former slide, but let's just go through the slide together. Pre-qualification helps you determine how much you can afford to spend on a home based on three factors. So your credit, which is what we just discussed, we'll do a soft pull on that to get some numbers, and we won't go too far in the weeds on that in this webinar. We can get to that if you book with me. I can discuss where your credit needs to be and how we can help you if your credit is too low. Your income is what we'll verify. Of course, we need to, anybody knows you got to have income to buy a house. And the third part is your assets. So, how much money do you have in the bank? How much do you have in a 401k? How much do you have in another portfolio? That kind of thing. How much money you have in a savings account? Those things we'll all verify. And then we'll be able to determine how much house you qualify for, which is great to know, right? It'll increase your bargaining power when negotiating with a seller. So if for instance you're qualified and you're pre-approved for 375 and we're looking for a house at, for instance, 350, then you have some money to play with. I can say, hey, I have a buyer that's pre-approved for way more than you're asking for this house. That really makes it sound great, like you're not stretching. Does that make sense? So it'll increase our bargaining power with a seller. It'll allow us to estimate what your monthly payment is going to be, and it'll help us identify which loan product that we're going to need to look at so that you guys can find out what you qualify for. Does that make sense? Drop into the chat questions, and I see Jamisha, I see you have some questions. Um, I'll send the booking link and maybe we can talk about that in a private conversation because that's kind of specific. Um, Loan pre approval. So here are the do's and the don'ts. So the do's are call me, call me, call me if you have any questions. A good responsive agent is available. And so I want to tell you, if you choose me, I'm going to be available. I'm giving out this whole webinar, not even knowing if you guys are going to choose me because I feel like people should know. And if they get value out of it and they want to choose me, I'm happy. Um, so let's talk about it a little bit. So the dues for a loan approval, maybe they won't even seem apparent to you, and that's what I want to concentrate on. Things that could make you stumble, and you didn't even know it. Right? Does that make sense? So here's number one: continue to live at your current address, your current residence. Right now, while we're trying to get pre-approval or when we're ready to get pre-approval, I want you to understand a couple of things. Banks hate change. Change seems to suggest that you're unsteady or maybe you're not trustworthy. And these are things that really, really matter to banks. They don't seem like that big of a deal, but they're huge. So don't change where you're living, even if you were going to pay less in rent. Right now, in a pre approval process, you don't want any changes. So, of course, it goes without saying that you want to stay current on any mortgage or rent payment that you're currently obligated to pay. Excuse me, my nose is itchy. So continue to make your mortgage or your rent payment. Don't get behind on anything. Again, smooth, steady, trustworthy are the things that we're looking for right now. Um, Continue to use your credit as you're doing now. So let's just, for instance, say you guys buy your gasoline on a Speedy Rewards card. Don't change doing that. Just continue that if that's your habit. If you buy your clothes at JCPenney's and you use a JCPenney or Target card, same kind of thing. You don't have to avoid using credit, just use it the same. Don't max out anything or things like that. But whatever you've normally been doing, go ahead and continue to use that. Um, Keep at your current employer. So even if you had an offer that was going to pay you $10,000 more a year, whatever, while you're trying to get pre approved, try to stay with your current job. We can talk about that personally. Let me drop the link in there to talk with me again personally. We can talk about your specific situation again, but in general terms, keep working where you're working so that that you look reliable. Okay. If you have insurance, just stay with your same insurance company, whether you're renting or renter insurance or homeowners insurance, whatever. Um, just keep things steady. Stay current on all of your existing accounts, your student loans, your credit cards, your rent payments, utilities, every single thing. Stay exactly current on. Can't stress it more than that. Right now, everything needs to be reliable, smooth, steady. Um, Here's something that you should expect during the pre approval process. We are going to dig into your life a little bit. Expect that we're going to require documentation along the way. Whatever we do at the front end is always good so that we can get you into the house of your dreams. That's what our goal is. So, a little bit of stuff that we have to go through is worth everything getting into the new home. So, here's the don'ts. I just told you all the do's. Don't make any large purchases. Don't go out and buy furniture for your new house before you have bought your new house. That's a true story. Um, don't change bank accounts or make any large cash deposits. So these things don't seem readily apparent, but they're really important. Don't change banks right now. Just stick with Wells Fargo if that's who you're with, or US Bank if that's who you're with. Right now, again, don't change anything. Don't transfer any large balances between your accounts. Any of these things make you seem unsteady. And again, we want everything to seem, uh, steady as she goes. Here's something that you might not know, but don't consolidate a couple of cards onto one card, even if it's a lower interest. Right now, a bank would look at that like, well, they can't handle the credit that they have. And that might not even be close to what's true, right? But it can appear that way to the bank. So don't consolidate any credit cards, don't consolidate any debt, don't apply for a new card. Banks can interpret that like, why are they needing more credit? And it could be that's not even what you're applying it for. Maybe you're going to get more points on that card or whatever, but just don't do it. Don't apply for any new credit. Don't apply for a personal loan. Again, just keep your life as steady as it has been for the previous 6 months. Does that make sense? Don't, of course, max out any of your credit cards um, or take out any cash from your credit cards. That always looks weird. So, any of that makes sense? Everybody on board there with that? Drop in the chat if that doesn't make sense. Um, so let's look at the three pillars of mortgage approval. Um, credit, income, and down payment. We've been talking a lot about credit, so I don't think we need to go over it other than what does credit really mean? I guess that's a really fundamental question, but I think that's a really good question. Credit, at the end of the day, is a measure of your trustworthiness. So, handling debt is one of the best ways to prove to a bank that you're trustworthy. I have people come to me quite a few occasions here lately say, "Hey, my whole life I've paid for everything in cash." Well, I'm probably not going to be able to get a mortgage for you right away until we establish trustworthiness through being able to handle debt, which is the the way to define credit is how do you handle your debt? And can you handle debt responsibly? That's exactly what a bank wants to know because you're taking out a 30-year loan. Are you going to be responsible with that? Lastly is down payment. So we're going to talk about some programs to help you with down payment, but I want to get into a couple of things. Maybe people have heard, just drop in the chat, what have you heard that you really need for a down payment percentage wise? Drop in there what you think that you need. And we'll go over the reality of what you need. So the three pillars, that makes sense. Credit, income, down payment. Income is just how much you make from your job, your side hustles. Um, if you've got a second gig, how much is that paying? Um, that kind of stuff. If you're getting alimony or child support or whatever, all those things can be considered income. Okay. So let's go over the types of mortgages. Okay, so there's four major types that I'll be dealing with. There's a whole lot more, but let's go over these four. Um, the first one is conventional. You've probably heard that term. We'll go over what that means. FHA loan, that's Federal Housing Administration loans. We'll go over that. USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Veterans Affairs. So those are four loan types that we're gonna get into here tonight. Conventional loans that you've probably heard of. Some people are Jamisha, you said 20%. I've seen 10 to 30% here, 3 to 30%, 3 to 20%. Those are all interesting answers. Um, so on a conventional loan, a lot of people used to think, hey, man, that's going to be like 20% down or 10% down. Well, we're doing conventional loans now, which are not backed by the federal government. Um, they typically require higher credit score. We can get into exactly what that credit score is. If you guys want to book with me, I dropped that in the chat again. The exact scores I can't go over until I have more information, but generally, a conventional mortgage is going to have a little bit higher credit score. Um, we need from 3 to 20% down. And if you were to have 20% down, then you would avoid what's called mortgage insurance. So MIP, mortgage insurance premium. So on the other loan products, there are a small fee. It's not that much, but anything can help save money. And your monthly payment is always a good thing. But other types of loans always require mortgage insurance. So the conventional loan requires it unless you pay 20% down. Again, it's not a big fee, but it is something to figure into your mortgage payment. Let's go to our next loan type. This is the one that I write Um, for first time homebuyers, the vast majority would be FHA approved loans. They are loans that are backed by the federal government, the Federal Housing Administration. They have more lenient credit requirements, which helps a lot of first time home buyers get into their first house. So that can be good. I think right now it's around 620, but again, those individual details will have to be worked out between me and my loan officer. Um, FHA loans require a low down payment, 3.5% is where I usually start those. That's the lowest that can be is 3.5%. It requires the mortgage insurance protection, which again is a small fee. I mean, it's usually, I don't know, 11 or 1200 bucks a year. Again, it depends on how much you're borrowing, but it's not a great deal of money. It's FHA loans are great for first-time home buyers or lower credit scores and higher debt to income ratios. A conventional mortgage is a little difficult, more difficult to qualify for because of debt to income. And debt to income ratio is something that you'll hear sometimes. And that just means how much debt do you have? What are your current obligations versus how much money that you actually make per month? Let me know if that doesn't make sense, but that's about as easy as I can explain it. So, how much debt you have, what you're obligated to, as a ratio between that and how much income that you make per month. That's your debt to income ratio. So, the next type of loans, we looked at FHA and conventional. Let's look at USDA loans, the United States Department of Agriculture loan. Okay, so these are kind of a unique product. They're not really available for city dwellers. They are more available for a rural buyer. The foundation of our economy really is home ownership. So some of the smaller communities outlying the larger metro areas don't have as heavily as dense a population. So there's more amazing loan products for them. And one of them is a USDA loan, zero down payment. Let me say it again, zero down payment. That sounds wonderful. Um, so they're available in rural and suburban areas, but yes, around the Twin Cities, they would be at least 30 miles ring around. It'd be a little bit more uh, mileage than Lakeville, for instance, if you wanted to live south. It'd be a little south of there before you could get into a USDA loan. But again, we can get into all those particulars with a consult. Um, Income limits do apply with a USDA loan. I will tell you that they are generous, but there are guardrails around how much you can make and get a USDA loan. But we can go over that together. Um, Lower mortgage insurance than FHA. So that little premium that I told you about, the mortgage insurance premium, it's less with a USDA loan than the other two products. That's basically a USDA loan. It's a really nice option for people that want to maybe live a little further away from the city, get them into something that has zero down payment and is a really great product if you can qualify. So, all right, let's go to the next type of loan would be a VA loan. So I really love our veterans. My brother was a dual service guy, Marine, and then went into Special Forces Army. So I come from a military family. My father and my grandfather were also in the military. I had some health things, so I wasn't in the military. But it's these loans are backed by the Department of Veterans Affairs. Again, zero down payment. There is a what's called a funding fee Again, we'll go over the nuances of those things with the consultation. But up front, there is zero down payment. On these loans, there's no mortgage insurance premium. So that can save you money every month. Um, you must be active duty, uh, a military veteran, or an eligible surviving spouse. So if you are active, or you're retired, or you're a veteran, or you're a surviving spouse, you can get a VA loan, and almost guaranteed that this will be the lowest rate percentage interest rate of any loan that you're going to be available to get. So if you qualify to be on a veterans program, let's go for it. And I can help you with that. So to recapture some things that we went over, drop in the chat. Is it better to be pre-approved or pre-qualified when it comes to your loan? Just type in there and let me know what you guys, I think you already know. We already went through that pretty extensively. Let's go through what you can and can't use for down payment and closing costs. Um, so you can use your 401 or retirement account can go towards your down payment or your closing costs. Okay. You can delve into that. We can talk about the penalties and things for doing that. Again, if you want to have a consult with me, I'm going to drop that in the chat again. Now, let's talk about this. I deal with a lot of young people who their parents or their grandparents or their uncle, like me, Uncle Johnny, want to help them out to get into the first home that they buy. So, how can we do that? You can't just take and get that money and put it in the bank. The bank's going to worry. Oh, that's a cash deposit. Where did that come from? So, we're just going to tell them. Okay, I have a form, gift letter that I can make available to you if you guys have like a mom or dad or uncle or grandparent that wants to help you with the down payment. That requires what's called a gift letter. It needs some specific things. There's structures that the lenders want to see, but the elements are very similar. Um, just basically the donor's full name, their address, their relationship to you, the exact dollar amount that they're going to be putting into the gift letter, property address that's going to be purchased. And this is important. There needs to be a statement in there that it's actually a gift, that there's not an expected requirement of repayment. Make sense? It's a gift. It's not a loan. And then just a sign and date uh, can fulfill those things for a gift letter. Um, I hope you guys understand that can be a great way to help with closing costs or down payment. Um, you can use stocks, bonds if you have those things. They can help with your down payment or closing costs. Okay, makes sense. Yes. Okay. Um, here's some things that you can't do. Uh, and maybe they seem apparent or like they should be, but we never go there. We always assume that people don't know. That way we don't get in trouble. Okay, so you can't use a credit card. You can't withdraw cash from your credit card. You can't pay off debt with debt. So you can't use a credit card to help with your down payment. That's not allowed. You can't take out a personal loan. A bank's not going to give you a loan so that you can make a down payment. Okay, that's not going to happen, and the mortgage company would know where that came from anyway, and they just are not going to be happy and not going to give you a mortgage. Um, Undocumented cash. So if you got money squirreled away underneath your mattress, that's not going to be allowed for down payment. So I would suggest that people over time just put that money in the bank. It's pretty simple. So there's the do's and don'ts, can and can'ts for dealing with down payment and closing costs. So let's talk about a couple of things that the state of Minnesota, and like I said before, housing, loans, mortgages, renovations, remodeling, housing starts. You heard all those things on the news. Those are incredibly important for our economy. Um, a huge portion of the economic engine of the United States is housing and renovation, and Home Depot and Lowe's and Menards and all of those things are so big in our economy. I mean, remember during the pandemic, what didn't close? Lowe's, Menards, Home Depot. They were never closed because it would have just been devastating. I was working in construction at that time doing contracting, and I was able to go to Home Depot every day. So, anyway, just as an aside, it's very important. So that's why there's programs available and different loan types and things like that because the government wants you to buy a house. It really helps everybody. And most of all, it helps you. Just to give you a little idea of something, I bet you didn't know that the average assets of a renter, what they're really worth, is less than $10,000. And the average homeowner right now in America, their assets are over $360,000. So that is a very encouraging reason to buy a house is because future wealth building is enormous. You will have 10 times almost the amount of wealth building ability as a renter, actually, way over 10 times. So let's start by looking at Minnesota housing homebuyer programs. The first one is called the Startup Program. It's for first time homebuyers, which is how I help a lot of people. First time homebuyers, or you can be considered a first time home buyer if you haven't bought a house in the last 3 years. It's kind of a cool thing. The key features of the startup program of MHFA loans are down payment and closing assistance loans are available. Let's talk about that. So, Minnesota program called Startup, you can get up to $14,000 available to you as a down payment assistance. So we'll talk about those amounts here in just a second. So the down payment assistance loans are 30-year fixed, and they can be a conventional FHA, VA, or USDA loan. They can be on any of that. Income limits for startup program do apply, but again, they're pretty generous. Unless you're making a whole lot of money, you probably qualify for this. I'm going to drop into the chat again my ability to book with me, and we can go over your very specific situation and let you know what you can and can't qualify for. Purchase price limits apply too. So again, it varies. Right now, it's a pretty hefty for a first time home buyer, the kind of loan that they're going to be able to get and get a startup program help. So, the down payment assistance options, there's two of them for the startup program. There's one called DPL Deferred Payment Loan. What does that mean? That means that you can get up to $14,000 and there's no payments, there's no interest. It has to be repaid when you sell the house from the proceeds of the sale of the home, or if you refinance. So that's a really amazing thing. You can get up to $14,000 for qualifying and for putting down on a house, and not have to pay any interest. Very few loans in your life are going to be interest free. This is one of them. You must be a first time home buyer or haven't bought within 3 years. That's $14,000. Now, there's another one called Deferred Payment Loan Plus, and that's up to $18,000. That's a monthly payment loan. So that's like a second mortgage. You'll make a small payment. You'll get $18,000, but you'll have a loan attached to your mortgage that will be spread out over 10 years. So $18,000 spread out over 10 years will satisfy that loan. Okay. Then there's a second program we'll discuss tonight, which is called the Step Up program. This is really cool for repeat FHA or Minnesota housing um, buyers. You can have done these things before. It's for a repeat buyer, or if you're refinancing, you can get into the step up program. It doesn't have to be exactly for a first mortgage all the time. You can refinance and use a step up program loan. It's not restricted to first time home buyers. Can be used for refinance. It allows down payment and closing cost loans. So, this is a great product for growing families. If you're upsizing or you're strategically refinancing because the rates have dropped so much that it makes sense to do it again, the Step Up program can help you accomplish that. You can get the down payment assistance, monthly payment loan, again, spread out over 10 years, what's called an amortized loan. Okay. So we went over mistake number one. Mistake number two is not getting a pre approval. Mistake number three is going to the listing agent to buy your house. So, when, you drive by and it says for sale and then there's somebody's name there, that person is the listing agent. And a lot of people think, oh, wow, what if I could just talk to them? Maybe I would get a better deal on my house. Let's cover that quickly. So the listing agent's job is she working for the seller to get the absolute most money for the seller. Their legal obligation is to get as much money for the seller as they can. They're going to protect the seller's interest. They're going to negotiate against you, not for you. So that's why we're talking about not calling the listing agent for these reasons. So think about it this way. When I do a listing agreement with a seller, I negotiate up front the amount of money that I'm going to make as commission and what the seller is going to pay out for a buyer's agent. Okay, so it's already negotiated up front. So if you think if I go to the listing agent, I'm going to get a better deal, that's not the case. What's going to happen is the commission's already been negotiated at the time of the listing. The seller pays it, not you. So the listing agent will just end up getting a bigger paycheck. The house is not going to reduce in value. So calling the listing agent in those situations just not going to make any difference for you. It's just going to mean that they're going to make more money. Here's something that you didn't think about if you just called the listing agent is they're not going to be that excited about helping negotiate any kind of repairs that you found. It's you standing alone without representation against the listing agent. The listing agent is not going to push the seller too hard for making any repairs to the place, right? Um, What if you have problems later? Well, you're just kind of on your own. If things go wrong, if there's title issues, boundary issues, survey issues, undisclosed defects, um, you're not going to have much luck standing out on your own. So here's what we're talking about when we talk about getting a buyer's agent. That is somebody that's going to represent your interest. Just like a seller has their agent, buyer's agents represent you. They're there for one reason, to protect always your best interest. Um, when I'm a buyer's agent, I have an ethical obligation and what's called fiduciary duties to represent you, always your best interest in mind. So, who does the buyer's agent represent? So, maybe you haven't heard that term before, but when you go to buy a house and you get a realtor, normally you're going to be working with what's called a buyer's agent. And if I were negotiating for you, I would be your buyer's agent. Okay. I would be representing you when we deal with the seller and we get an inspection and all of those kind of things. Um, then I would be representing you, talking about price, talking about the terms of the agreement, the mortgage, the motivations, those things I would all be doing on your behalf. Um, so, in every situation, it's going to benefit you to have your own agent. They work for you. There's rarely an out of pocket cost. Remember when I said that when I do a listing agent, I've already determined how much that I'm going to pay for a buyer's representative? It's already in that contract. So, a large majority of the fee for a buyer's agent is going to be covered already. So usually there might be a little makeup percentage there, but it's not much in most cases. So they're going to work for you. You're going to have a strong negotiator on your side. Again, I work very hard for my clients to get them the best deal, to work with the lender to get good terms for them. Again, I have your best interest in mind. So let's talk a little bit before we get to mistake number four. I want to talk about the difference between a loan officer and a banker. So, bankers can do mortgages, okay? But they're not mortgage officers like there would be working with a separate mortgage officer outside of a bank. So I work with a guy named Sean with a company called Responsive Mortgage. And so Sean is available to me on nights, weekends, holidays. I can usually get a hold of him within a few hours' notice, whereas a banker is going to be banker's hours, usually, not that available, and usually only offering the products that their institution offers. Okay, when you work with a loan officer like I'm suggesting, if you want to deal with me, I use Sean a lot. You can, of course, choose any lender, but I always suggest getting a loan officer with an independent institution so that they're more available. And I can tell you that Sean with Responsive Mortgage is very responsive. He is available to me, and we've written deals on weekends when I've been away on holidays. We've written deals. Um, so, if you have any questions, we can go over that in the consultation as well. But just as a general topic, I would always suggest dealing with a mortgage only company. Does that make sense? They're just gonna have more flexible hours, and they're gonna be able to look at a lot more different products for you than just, for instance, US Bank, okay? Mistake number 4 is skipping home inspection. Sometimes people think, um, maybe I shouldn't spend the $700 or $600 or whatever it is. This house looks fine. Well, on your first time and you're buying something that costs 3 or $400,000, does saving 6 or 700 bucks make a lot of sense? No. So I've got a couple of horror stories where people have skipped an inspection and it's not been good outcome. So I would always suggest you to avoid costly mistakes like we're talking about today is go ahead and get a home inspection. I can talk to you specifically if you book me why sometimes we wouldn't get a home inspection, but as a general rule, you save money by getting a home inspection. Um, what's the cost of skipping a home inspection? Well, you could purchase a house and not know that there's really a deal breaker in this house. When we do a an offer with a home inspection contingency, then you're safe. There's a time period, usually 5 to 7 days, that I can write an offer and say, you have 5 to 7 days. You can get the inspection done. And if stuff comes up, you can get out of that loan offer, that purchase agreement for any reason that you want. Okay. So right now, it makes sense to get a home inspection. Um, when you have a home inspection, you have more negotiating power. So if you discover something on your own, it doesn't have as much weight as having a written report from an inspector that says, hey, they don't have smoke detectors, or boy, it looks like this furnace, has some issues, it hasn't been solved. Or like a couple of houses back, the chimney, I didn't even see that there was some damage on the chimney, and the housing inspector did, and it turned out that it could have been like 4,500 bucks to repair that. So that's why I always tell people, let's get an inspection because I don't know everything. I'm here to help you, walk you through getting the right price and the right neighborhood and the right location, all of those things. That's my job, walking you all the way through the process. But knowing exactly all the little details, that's where the home inspector comes in. Um, so they're gonna know all kinds of stuff about, structural issues, foundation issues. Um, the one that I did an inspection walkthrough today, actually, and the guy was really good. He had thermal cameras. He could look through the access for the roof and see, okay, there's no mold or anything on the backside of the roof. Um, if you don't have a home inspector, you're gonna be oblivious to any illegal work that might have been done, or code work that hasn't been up to snuff. So you're not gonna know that stuff. So again, I just encourage everybody, let's get an inspection. If you're right with me, I'm gonna really suggest that we get an inspection. I'm gonna drop this link here again, booking. Um, mistake number 5. All you condo buyers out there or people of an association, that kind of thing, this is for you. Not taking your condo document review period seriously. So, when you want to buy a condo, when you get your offer accepted, there's a period of time called a rescission period, and that's 10 days to review all of the documents that you receive from the condo association. Why is that important? Wow, it's huge. You want to take this period very seriously because this is the time where you can back out if things don't seem right. There's a lot of things going on right now with condos, and people have gotten taken to the cleaners, so to speak. And so we want to do our due diligence way on the front end of the condo association documents. So I had I've heard of buyers having a really attractive condo, a great price, updated, beautiful remodel. The dues looked manageable. But when we got into the nitty-gritty of the association documents, it looks like they didn't have a whole lot of cash on hand. Um, the reserves that they had on hand were low for the size and the age of the building. And those are things that we would go over together on a booking appointment. But um, the balconies were kind of falling apart. The minutes from the meetings of the association were kind of skimpy. And they mentioned that there may be some special assessments, and that means charges, like maybe the street was going to need to be repaved on getting into the condominium area. That would be spread out to you. Um, there was nothing finalized yet as far as in the documents we were looking at, but there was warning signs, and so they decided to hold off, and we found out 8 months later, that that association had passed a special assessment of $10,000 for every unit, because, something came up and they didn't have the reserves to pay for it. They hadn't, over time, saved enough money. So, what I say is, you're not just buying countertops, you're buying into the financial strength of that entire building. So, you need to take that period of time very seriously. Um, if you look at the documents, they're going to tell you, okay, we're looking towards keeping everything pretty steady for a while, or we're looking to raise money immediately. They may have a special assessment that's pending. You'll be able to find that out. Here's one you could be able to find out that they didn't allow pets on the MLS listing that you read when you were buying it. It said that they allowed pets. Well, when you dig into the documents, you may find out differently that they don't allow pets. So, does all that make sense? Um, just pay attention to everything, little details. That's why you have me. I It's been my pleasure to be here with you guys tonight. Drop in the chat how you guys feeling now. Um, Let me know. Did I cover things that you were thinking of? Um, do you feel a little less stressed now? Feel like maybe you know a little bit more? Or do you have more concerns? Again, I'm going to drop into the chat my booking link. I hope that this has been beneficial for you. Any questions that you guys have, let's drop in the chat right now, and I'll see if I can get to those. Um, do you do you think now that you're more prepared to think about buying a home in the coming year or coming months or maybe the spring? Um, that's really important for me to know up front. Um, do you uh I'm offering free consults here this week. You can click the booking link and book the time that makes sense for you. It's been awesome being here with you guys. I hope that everything has been helpful. If not, let me know in the chat. And if you've got questions right now, I'm here. Again, click the booking link. I'm going to drop that one last time in here. Um, and I look forward to talking to you guys. It's been my pleasure to bring this information to you. Um, I hear Christy. Can you book a time with me right now, and I'll go through those things with you on an individual level. We can find that stuff out. Other than that, again, I'm Johnny McFadden with Real Broker. It's been great to talk to you guys. Christy, thank you for dropping a note to me. I'll be back with you um, later. Okay. Again, pleasure. I hope you guys have a good evening. Bye.